a great deal of the market right now has to do with
Did you get that
foreclosures and short sales and other bank-owned types of property. One of the phrases everybody hears is cash for keys. There's people say it all the time. Some people know what it means, some people don't. So what Frank's going to talk about today is cash for keys / move-out agreement. What is it and how does it work? So you're going to educate everybody on what cash for keys is, how does it work, why people do it, and what to expect, right?
Yes.
All right. So we're gonna leave for 9 minutes, and you go, Frank.
I'll go right ahead. Basically, a cash for keys. I mean, it's in the phrase right there. You're living in a home, and especially if you're a tenant. And I feel that there's a big injustice that's going on out there. I was actually talking to Scott yesterday about this.
Fix it, Frank.
I'm encountering a lot more nowadays where I'm assigned a property after it's been foreclosed. I approach the property. There's a tenant, not the former borrower, but a tenant living in the property who's absolutely, literally unaware that the foreclosure has taken place or even happened yet.
Yeah.
They've been making good on their rental or their lease payments, but the former owner, their landlord, hasn't been making good on the mortgage.
They're in Fiji surfing.
There you go. They're over there with
and then Frank Eponymous
Jeff Rudy. And so, I completely and absolutely try to, I do my best to show great compassion and understanding. At the same time, there's a process that's going to start taking place regardless of what their circumstances. When a property goes to foreclosure, and even though there's a lot of talk right now about these, rental or lease arrangements and so forth.
Yeah, it's getting some traction, too.
Yeah, usually the seller's main objective is to get the property vacant and get the property sold because it is a liability. It might sound like a great idea. You're renting or leasing to a tenant that's in your foreclosed property, but along with that comes a lot of liability. So their first main objective is to get that property vacant. The way they're going to do it now is first we try to find out who's living there. Obviously, tenant or a former borrower. Once we find out who's living there, the bank is going to evaluate things usually based on who's living there, on how they're going to approach the situation. Usually they're going to make a cash for keys offering to whoever is there.
Do they make cash for keys offers to everyone, or do they try to kick them out without making them?
No, they make it to everyone. Of course, they're going to have more compassion for those that are tenants because a tenant is really a victim of circumstance.
Tenant meaning a renter.
A renter, okay. Right. But still, right now, their policy is across the board to show courtesy to everyone. Now, the cash for keys agreement basically is usually going to be delivered, or they'd like it to be delivered directly from the agent. They want me to make direct contact to see who's living there, to hand it to the person in the property rather than just blindly send it through mail. And if I do send it through mail, I send it certified. So if you see a certified MOA or cash for keys agreement, more than likely it's very legitimate. Contact that agent, do your research, go to the county, find out if the property's truly been foreclosed.
Because you might not even know as the renter.
Yeah, but more than likely someone who's trying to pull a fast one on you isn't going to be offering you money.
Right.
They're going
to be asking you for money.
They're going to be asking you for money. Right. Okay, so basically, and the reason I want to make personal contact and make sure I'm handing it to the person that lives there is because if you just were to mail it, and let's say that property were up and vacant and some squatter came by and claimed they live there, they're just pretending to live there just to get the money. Yeah.
Oh my God, does that happen?
It happens.
Wow.
It doesn't happen as much anymore because we're very careful about our approach to the property. But getting back to what the cash for keys is, usually it's an offering for a particular amount of money to vacate the property in a particular amount of time.
Is it always the same amount of money?
It depends from bank to bank, and you can throw numbers out there. Some banks might offer a couple $1,000. Some banks might offer $10,000. It really depends bank to bank.
Which bank offers $10,000?
Well, we're not going to talk.
Come on.
But standardly, the days are the same. Usually they're looking for a 30-day move-out. Okay?
And how soon does somebody get a cash for keys offer? At what point in the process?
I'd say usually within about 2 to 3 weeks after the foreclosure date. It gives us some. First, we want to take a little time.
Is that the NOD?
No, the trustee sale after the property's already been foreclosed. no investor, no one else bought it, and went back to the beneficiary or the owner.
So
basically,
you couldn't get a short sale done.
Couldn't get a short sale. Couldn't get it sold at auction. It goes back to the bank.
Got it.
Usually about 2 to 3 weeks after, you're going to have an agent, more than likely, or maybe a certified letter for cash for keys. At that point, review it carefully. Look at what the terms and conditions are. So on and so forth. Usually, though, the bank's going to be really firm and not want to change one article, one sentence, one word in that agreement. So go ahead and review it. If you decide to go out and get an attorney to help you perform that, just remember that you need to deduct the amount that the bank is offering you from what the attorney is going to charge you to help coordinate that. The bank is usually not going to kick that number up and pay for your legal costs also. Okay. There are some services out there that will give you some basic brief overview, or some people have the pre-legal and things like that.
Prepaid
That's
legal.
always a prepaid legal, always a good idea.
Legal Zoom, baby.
They'll review it for you and tell you, yeah, this is all in accordance to what the standard cash for keys verbiage says. Now it's up to you. Do you think that amount of money being offered to you and that amount of time works out for you? A lot of people think that you just have to take it. I'll be honest. Go back.
It's negotiable.
And you can try to negotiate.
What do you mean try?
Well, sometimes the banks say, well, this is, they might have maxed out right from the beginning.
Right.
And that's it. And they're pretty strict about their cap. So if they offered you, $10,000,
Yeah,
and
that's
you
a pretty good offer. I
and
might
you
take
need
that.
20, that $10,000 is actually pretty reasonable. I think right in this market, it covers your first, your last, and then some moving expenses.
And
So
then some.
yeah.
Which is the goal.
Yeah.
Well,
Now,
cash
the-
for
now
You
these,
got to assume they're going to lose their deposit. Probably because the landlord's not.
If he's not making
Yeah.
his house payment,
Right.
there's a pretty
Yeah.
good chance he's not going to give you back your deposit.
Yeah.
Is there also like a contingency usually on those? Like
You have to leave the
gotta,
house
Yeah,
within-
they're gonna do an inspection. And make sure
Usually
everything's
it's going to say that the property has to be in a broom clean condition, and they really do mean that. You don't have to go scrubbing walls and steam cleaning carpets and things like that, but you can't have any articles, paper, trash, debris inside, outside of the house, on the curb, in the
You're not gonna get that check.
driveway,
But
in
at
the
the
back.
time, but at the time you make the offer, at the time you make the cash for keys offer, do you do a quick inspection to make sure
Yeah.
that it's just the
And-
same when they leave? Because it might be trashed now.
Yeah.
I mean, there
well,
might be holes in the
I
bedroom
understand
walls
when
or
I go
something.
into a property that's been foreclosed a lot of the time, it hasn't been well maintained. Okay.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that you can leave,
Can't leave trash. You gotta-
wire hangers and trash and
Right,
debris
well,
all over
like
the place.
When you rent a car, they
Yeah.
ask you to walk around it
Yeah.
and
Check for
identify
dings
any
and-
dings or scratches,
Yeah.
so you don't get blamed for it later. Do they do the same sort of? Do you do the same
Maybe
sort of
you
thing
should
a
take
little bit?
pictures
Per-
of the condition you left it in.
Pretty much, but the agreement is usually clear, though, not to damage the property
Sure.
or remove attached items. Sometimes people, I need to know ahead of time, and I'm always quick to ask: is there anything that you did attach yourself that you're going to take with you? Because I need to tell the bank ahead of time right now. Because when I go in there and I see all these light fixtures missing, part of the agreement is that you were not to remove these things. If you tell me ahead of time and we both agreed about it, when I go in there and I see that big chandelier's missing, we're fine. We're fine.
Well, Melissa had a good idea. If there's any damage to the property, holes
Take
in the
pictures.
walls or anything like that, take pictures, and they usually have time codes on them.
Yeah.
So take those pictures and just in case.
And when I show up and see things like that, I'm not picky about that, because it's a hole in the wall. If I see that there's excessive damage and it looks like it happened because you were upset about this whole thing, we may have an issue. But at that same time, if the house is clear, I really want to conclude this matter right here. You go your way, I go mine, and let's just get it done.
Break it down, Frank. Break it down.
Just get it done. So to break it down, basically, at cash for keys, it can work out. You can try to negotiate, but more than likely, the offering that the banks are making right now is pretty much the offering that they're going to make after 2 or 3 attempts at a counter. So that's something to consider. They may be a little more loose for time. If it says 30 days and you're cooperative with them with the amount, and it looks like you're working with them. They may give you more time, but maybe not more money. So if you're going to really push for something, I think you're going to have more success pushing for time rather than the money. But these things do work out, and it gives that tenant or that former borrower a little bit of money to go on their way to start off their new life. It works out for everybody.
There you have it,
Yeah.
Cash for keys.